you. Good afternoon. I'm Denise Nacu. I'm from DePaul University in Chicago, and I'm presenting on behalf of my collaborators back home, Jennifer Baltus, Taha Hamid, Jonathan Gemmel, and Nicole Pinkard. We are an interdisciplinary group bringing together expertise in the design of learning technologies, learning environments, and data science. My background is in the learning sciences, and I focus on the design and study of socio-technical systems, mainly for middle school and high school aged youth. And today I will be sharing with you a framework for developing metrics of youth engagement in informal learning environments. Especially appropriate for International Women's Day, the big problem which has motivated the development of this framework is the issue of underrepresentation of females and minority populations in STEM. And I suspect that many of you are already familiar with documented gender gaps in terms of participation in STEM and computing fields, but to give you a snapshot, here we're looking at the percentage of bachelor's degrees earned by women in selected STEM fields in the US over the last 4 decades. And while the percentage of women receiving degrees in various STEM fields has increased dramatically, for computer science, we see a downward trend over the past few decades. Of course, this trend is concerning, and we need women's contributions in computing. And thus, we've seen various initiatives to broaden participation among women and underrepresented groups in computing. Why are we seeing these trends? Research has pointed to a number of barriers for girls' continued participation in computing. And these include having less experience, lacking confidence, persistence of negative stereotypes, climate, lack of role models, mentoring and community, and lack of interest. With these barriers in mind, there's been a push to create programs, tools, and curriculum to trigger and sustain interest among girls at an early age. And many of these utilize the informal learning context. An example of this type of program is the Digital Youth Divas program, which is organized by the Digital Youth Network. And this is an out-of-school program for middle school-aged girls, which is meant to connect with girls' pre-existing interests along themes like design, fashion, and dance. It involves scaffolded STEM projects and interaction with adult mentors and peers. Girls in the program meet once a week on Saturdays, usually, and use an online learning platform, which includes assignments, resources, portfolios, and opportunities to interact around work that they create and submit. It's important to note that this program does not solely focus on developing STEM knowledge and skills. Rather, it's designed to develop STEM-related identities, to build community, and to spark and sustain interest, and hopefully continued participation along STEM pathways. And through a few years of iterative design and research on the Divas program and exploring many different types of questions about the program with a range of stakeholders, including mentors, program leaders, designers, and researchers, we saw a need for a framework to help us capture and organize important aspects of the learning environment. So we're driven by this question: how can we leverage data from the informal learning environments to provide actionable insights about youth engagement for various stakeholders? We have a number of data sources available, including automatically generated log data from the platform. We wanted to explore how to take advantage of these sources to create practical measures of youth engagement in these types of informal spaces. And in a moment, I'll share with you the categories and dimensions which make up our conceptual framework. But first, I want to highlight a few of the important theoretical ideas which shape how we conceptualize engagement and learning. First, we emphasize social learning models. We view learning as a process of becoming, taking on new identities, and participating within communities. We also view the environments we design within an ecology of context, spanning the spaces of home, school, and community, and involving dynamic interaction with peers and adults. A core concern we have is also on the equity of participation in terms of how certain populations of youth can access, participate, and thrive. It's not just about the access, it's about the quality of participation. And so here's our visual representation of our framework, and we've nicknamed it the cube for now, but probably need a better and catchier name for it. So in terms of the categories of analysis, we want to capture aspects we think that are important about youth, such as interest, expertise, knowledge, social connections, and their personal and family data. In terms of user behavior, we want to look at their physical and online presence, how they interact with peers and mentors, and how they engage with the curriculum. For time, we want to be able to understand the initial metrics at the start of a program, what's happening at any given point in time during the program, and how can we look at change over time. And for scope, we want to be able to see individual, program, and community level analyses. And as an exploration of this framework, we focused on just user behavior as part of the framework. And we used historical data collected from a 20-week implementation of the DIVAS program, drawing from platform log data and attendance data. And I'll share with you very briefly the 3 metrics that we explored in the paper. So especially given the informal nature of the program, just showing up as when expected is really important. So reflecting this idea, we created a composite metric of presence, which combines physical attendance, being there on a Saturday, and online participation. For the category of interaction with peers and mentors, we created a metric we call balance of communication. And so this has to do with how much feedback a student is getting from peers relative to the feedback that they're providing to others. And then the third category was this idea of curricular engagement. And we draw from our prior work, which uses a framework of 21st century learning themes to code logged actions in the platform. And these include these are creative production, self-directed learning, and social learning. So to give you a sense of how we've coded this, we link the intended learning opportunities designed into the online platform with various actions logged in the platform. So for example, logs reflecting posting and editing media will be coded for the creative production theme. Similarly, when users are open activity resources in the online platform, we code that for self-directed learning. And for social learning, actions like posting comments and critiques are coded with the social learning theme. So what can these metrics tell us about youth engagement in the DIVAS program? And so we summarized using these metrics after the 20-week program, and these are described more in the paper, but these are not as interesting to me than how we can use the metrics to provide actionable insights during the program implementation. So I'm going to skip there. So let's take an example, and I will show you some initial explorations on how a mentor in the DIVAS program might make use of these metrics. So in the DIVAS program, mentors have their main role is to organize activities in the class, guide projects, and really build this social environment and community. And we see mentors as especially important for shaping the environment and creating positive experiences for girls. So here's one visualization looking at physical attendance and online presence for just one class at a particular point in time, week 5. So the size of the circles indicate the number of girls. And so here we try to show, given expectations for showing up and expectations for logging on, for example, at least once a week during that 5-week period, we can see who is not participating as expected and who might be participating more than expected. So here we see potential for some possible next steps for the mentor. For example, reaching out individually to girls who are not participating as expected. Looking at the 21st century learning opportunities, we can see how all girls in class 2 have participated online at a certain point in the program. Again, given expectations, the mentor may use this type of display to identify girls who may need more help on projects. Focusing on the social learning dimension, the mentor might also use her knowledge of the girls in context to compare how they're communicating with others online versus in the face-to-face setting. And here, you could take a closer look at this example in the paper. This combines presence, balance of communication, and creative production. But I hope you can see how, for this particular stakeholder, looking at the class level, we're trying to use the metrics to highlight differences in how the girls are participating and to help generate insights from which the mentor can then take action. So in summary, the metrics and visualizations we've shown were exploratory and provide a starting point for collaborations with mentors and other stakeholders, particularly for researchers studying informal learning environments like the Digital Youth Divas program studied here. We hope that this helps to prompt consideration of important categories and types of analysis that can potentially reveal how participants are engaging with the programs that we're creating. And so for us, the framework is providing a high-level mapping to guide data collection, coding, metric development, and the creation of data infrastructures that we could use in conversation with stakeholders who are committed to leveraging informal spaces and to encourage and sustain participation of girls in STEM. Thank you. Thank you.
So I agree also, anytime we can get more women, more young girls involved, especially in technology. One of the things that I'm curious about is it's a strategy which is a pipeline building strategy. You know, the reason why we don't have more women graduating from computer science is because we need more going into it, is kind of the argument. I've looked a lot at this at my institution, when we've committed and have almost quadrupled the number of women in our computing program on purpose, but we still see a lot of fallout. So the more you put in, if you're not changing things at the university level, what's going to happen is the challenging courses, the work that's you were talking about, is basically going to take them out. We're going to build them up. They're going to come into their introductory course, and then they're going to be wiped out. And so that message has to continue on into the higher education world if we're really going to sustain a more inclusive environment in this particular area.
Yes.
Thanks, Denise. Did you find any correlations between your metrics and the students being more engaged in the informal learning? So, for example, you were saying presence, balance of communication, creative production. Did one of those matter more?
Well, we've done some of that analysis, looking over the long time frames. Definitely showing up makes a big difference in their persistence, and we saw some differences just looking at the log data as well. Different types of users, like girls who were more social oriented, those who were more kind of production oriented, who were not really doing much of anything. I think those are some things that we want to do more of, to kind of find those connections, and to be able to, really what we want to do is to understand as early as possible, so that, because we know that especially with the informal programs, you need to hook students, you need to have them continue within the first couple weeks, because it can be very easy to just, change their mind and go on to something else.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Yeah, love the project as well. I'm involved in Coder Dojo in Ireland, so similar initiatives. I'm really interested in your metrics. I'm wondering, what are the metrics that you're targeting for the next phase of this? I think metrics around creativity are really difficult to negotiate and to identify, but if we could do it, wow.
Well, at this stage, we're focused on, we're going to the, this is an extra slide. We're going to the user part, right? So we're looking at interest and engagement, and we've added a new data source, which are these dailies. So we're asking them questions about how much fun did they have, and did they feel like they belonged, and we're working very closely with the mentors on a weekly basis, and this has been just awesome to have them engage with us at looking at the data and to target and say what might be going on with this person, and then also to see things that contrast with their experience with them in person. So I think that the framework just points to so many things to look at, and so we're just biting off piece by piece. Thank you.